Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on the channel, and as you can see, I'm joined by a guest for this one. It is TCG Meta Analysis time again, and we are joined by the one and only Icentrix. How you doing, my friend? How are preparations going? Because you yourself are going to attend and play YCS Lille, aren't you?
Yeah, hello. I'm doing fine as always, and yeah, I will be playing YCS Lille, and yeah, not having the time I want for my preparations, because you can never have enough time for prepping, but
True.
yet it works kind of fine.
I mean, we are kind of doing prep as well today, right? Going about a
Yeah.
couple of decks, so talking some strategy. So that's never to be disregarded. Also for you guys at home, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like to this video, and make sure to maybe check us out next time on Twitch as well, while we're doing this live on Twitch right now as well. So
Yeah.
let's get into the action. We're talking very in depth about all the different decks and the format. And as we are still in Europe, and I mean, we're kind of talking about which deck is going to win YCS Lille as well, as Lille is basically next week, basically a week from now. So, first up on the list, the honorable, almighty plant deck, winner of YCS Dortmund, winner of Euros a couple of years ago, winner of German Nationals, winner of YCS Lille as well, question mark?
I mean, as always, we started with talking about plants. I still get nightmares from seeing that Aramage Jasmine there.
Yes.
Yeah, we in Europe, top meta contender, of course.
You say meta contender?
No, I'm joking. I mean, we are in Europe, so plants always win, you know.
I don't know. It's weird. Like I will quote a tweet from, or a post on X from Tom Menzel, calling that it will be plants winning YCS Lille. So if it happens, it is because of him, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, I have a weird feeling there is at least going to be one person topping with the deck again. And then from there on, like, everything can happen. Just one question out of curiosity. You don't run grass in this, right? Because that was a 60 card deck before grass came back, and now there is grass again. But like, it's probably the only 60 card deck that doesn't run grass, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, probably does. I think the deck just needs to like hide its bricks. Also, Tom Menzel joining the chat as well, saying
let's go. Shoutouts.
Clarifying his statement, saying yeah, plants will win. But I don't think so. I don't think the deck is that good. So the deck has something's going for it. So because the engine is actually quite good in breaking fields.
It is.
But I still think you need a lot of non-engine in this format. And yeah, you can fit a lot of non-engine in 60 cards, but that doesn't make your odds higher if you go up in the count.
I mean, while we're at it, talking about specific things going for these decks, Mulcharmy?
Yeah.
Purrely, I think that's a card that definitely does hit the Rika deck quite a bit, right? Because you want to normal summon, of course, if you don't start Unexpected Die, but still preferably would then also normal summon. And then there's multiple effects summoning from the hand. So game 2, game 3, you really are getting hit with that card. And I think this card, unironically, might be already a super big main deck contender for a lot of the people this weekend.
Yeah, it's actually a very good card, Mulcharmy Purrely, we gotta say. Yeah, as you said, like, yeah, the plant deck is definitely it. I'm not into plant combos deep enough to say there are lines where you can play around it quite well, like Yubel can. Yubel has some lines where it only gives its opponent like 2 draws or so.
Sure.
Which is probably fine. I cannot say if plant has it. But just the case of it being like a deck where you need to hide your bricks and then cannot really rely on good breakers, because I think the amount of good board breakers is quite limited in Yu-Gi-Oh! Today.
For sure.
So
we can talk about it later.
Yeah, also one thing which is quite funny to mention, I think, is like against Ritual Beast, which is a good deck. Ritual Beast does not only have Dimension Shifter against you, they also have the Link 4, which says you cannot like tribute cards to activate monster effects.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
Not saying that is super crucial, but it's like a thing to consider.
Another add-on, and I think with all the arguments we have there, it can't be better than Rogue, right? It's only a Rogue deck at this point. Maybe it always only was a Rogue deck that had like some really good runs at multiple tournaments, but I think we would be doing it wrong if we would put it anywhere be above Rogue, and therefore probably pretty far up on the Rogue decks, but it is a Rogue deck at the end of the day.
Wouldn't put it super down in Rogue, wouldn't like put it super low in Rogue, I would put it in high Rogue.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there deserves a spot.
I mean, maybe someone proves us wrong over the weekend, but for
Yeah.
now it's a rogue deck. Next up on the list, a deck that can absolutely also play 60 cards, and when they do play 60 cards, I'm pretty sure this is one of the decks that would play that grass looks greener.
Yeah.
And probably, for me personally, even the deck that I would be the most scared of running grass at this point right now.
Yeah, so I tell you one thing. People saw Branded Fusion got to one like not last list, which is a good hit to the deck. But
True.
I'll tell you, Branded got buffed by the last Forbidden Limited list.
Because of grass?
Yeah, I think just because of the option that you have a chance to go like activate Thrust, add grass is so strong for the deck. And it's like if grass resolves in this deck, you likely win.
Agreed, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that makes the deck super strong, because also the deck has a lot of ways to get to its Branded Fusion. Of course, having Branded Fusion hard drawn is much better. But you have like the free Aluba, you have the free openings, you have ways of playing with Quam and Cartesia into like sending Serenity and Retribution. So I think Branded is overall super strong and the minimum solid deck. Also, we shouldn't forget, Sanctifier Dragon is still in the game.
He's still out there rocking. He's still out there summoning monsters from the graveyard on the opponent's turn. And I mean, that was the thing that everyone was complaining about, and it's still capable, very well capable of doing that. Yeah. Another thing, you touched on Ritual Beast being one of the decks running Shifter. Of course, Shifter overall a pretty decent part of the metagame right now, as Tenpai is also there. And then also some smaller decks like Kashtira or something like as well. And Branded, unironically, Nightfall already cooking out there, presenting us with lines through Dimension Shifter, which are looking quite nice, not gonna lie. I mean, it's not the full combo that you want from a Branded deck. It's obviously not going to be a puppet lock when they're shiftering you, but it's still looking pretty good compared to what other decks are doing, because when I'm looking at a field of a Yubel player that got shifted, there's going to be a Phantom Max and nothing else. And Branded can still put up quite a few things for sure.
Yeah, also Branded has one advantage, I think. Since it is a fusion deck, it can play Book of Eclipse.
True.
Which I think is a very situational, but probably quite crucial board break at this format. I don't know if it will be played in masses, because not a lot of decks can play it. But a big advantage of it is that if you book the Desiree, the sequence will fall off of it, and it will not like negate anymore. So you can actually plus off it, especially against Yubel, where you can also book the Phantom.
Yeah, for sure. So we've had very strong and positive words there.
Yeah.
Still, though, it can only be the challenger category, right? It cannot be all the way up in top meta, right? Yeah, okay.
It's always like Branded is never the top deck. It always feels like this.
Yeah, let's put it in challenger. I think that's definitely where it belongs. Yeah. Surely a deck, though, that I can see doing pretty well at YCS Lille, though. I definitely think there will be people playing this, because like the Branded arc surely never ends, right? There's just players that play this for a lifetime. I don't know what kind of contract they signed, but they have to play that deck for like years.
Deal with the devil. But deal with the devil.
For real, man. For real.
Yeah, the fall of Elvis.
The fall of Elvis himself, the devil, yeah. And I think it's going to be decent. I think it was somewhat disappointing at Euros, but I think it's going to come back and have a little better of a time this time around,
I agree. I agree, yeah. Next up, having a deck that is not as good as Branded, probably, which is Centurion.
Performed better at Master Duel Worlds, huh?
Yeah, it did, and I know why, because the deck is very good against Maxi, I guess.
True. Yeah, what has it going in the TCG? I think the only thing we always said, what is good with Centurion, was always, hey, it can at least Calamity Lock, and guess what? That's also gone now, so...
Yeah.
It's tough to find positive things for the deck, right?
I mean, it can play Shifter. That's the only positive thing I can find. But I don't think it's like close to being in the maybe top 4 decks that can play Shifter.
Yeah.
Honestly, I might be a bit hard on this, but for me, Centurion is a maybe next time deck.
No, I'm with you. Let's put it in there quick and easy. I don't think it can be very successful at the moment, and therefore... maybe bring it into the next format or to the next tournament. Reconsider. I think there's more Centurion support actually announced, right? At some point.
Yeah, there's actually coming more Centurion support, which is actually quite decent. I think the deck gets its second tuner, which is pretty good and pretty important for the deck.
True.
But yeah, I won't have it now for Lille, so
Yeah, so that's perfect for maybe next time category, as next time you're going to have better cards to play, bro. So just maybe wait a couple of weeks, maybe wait a couple of months, and then you're going to be good. Next up on the list, we do have the Chimera Fiendsmith deck.
Yeah.
And that pretty much is a deck that I'm really, really excited with. I already was excited with it for multiple tournaments. I was excited for it for the European Championship, where literally nobody was having success with it. I was still anticipating it to be played at Worlds, where nobody played it somehow.
Yeah.
And I think this time now, though, YCS Lille, but Chimera deck is coming back. I can see it. I think we're going to have a good time with the Chimera deck, and I think the deck overall is really, really good from my personal standpoint.
Oh yeah, the deck is quite strong. So the deck has like very, very strong in-engine board breaking capabilities.
Yeah.
Which not a lot of decks have this format. And there the big advantage as well is like the deck synergizes so well with cards like Forbidden Droplet, Book of Eclipse, also Triple Tactic Talents, very strong in this deck. And yeah, also one thing, the deck is hit the least probably by the Lacrima ban.
True.
Because the deck has actually Baphomet, its own fusion monster they can pretty much always summon.
Yeah. So they have that level 6 already if they want to go for the... I mean, one thing a little annoying is, of course, that Beatrice is gone for the deck now, and Beatrice, like, enabled you some, like, super unfair lines, which would be, like...
But I don't think they need it, honestly. I don't even know if they summoned it that often.
Oh, so, I think they did. They definitely did, for sure, because it does enable you some crazy lines. Yeah. But, like, to be fair... They do now have Aerial Eater, right? So that probably just kind of makes up for it. It's not the same, but it's definitely still pretty good.
Also, the biggest strength of the deck, which we shouldn't forget, is that it is always very, very strong in board breaker formats. Not only because it can play board breakers itself, it can also play Diabells, which pretty effectively turns off all quick play spells. Because you need to set spells and traps before setting them, and quick play spells cannot be activated the turn they are set.
That's true.
So, and
I saw some crazy fields where they're also... Because, I mean, with the Fiendsmith cards, you, of course, also just gain additional link bodies that you can then at some point use as well, where they just end on, of course, the Diabells, and then additionally to that, also the Silhouette Rabbit and Azurune. So, like, you can destroy one card that they're setting with the Diabells, and then you can destroy an additional card as well with the Silhouette Rabbit when they're setting it. So, like... You just keep on, like, they're trying to at some point finally activate spell card, and you're like, okay, I destroyed. They're never ever going to resolve their Dark Rulers or their Evenly Matched or something. Yeah. So I think this deck has real big potential. Yo, thanks for the gift sub, by the way. Appreciate it a lot. And yeah, I think, to me, high potential. At least, maybe even it's challenger, but it's at the very least, it's high potential to me.
No, I think it's still high potential because of its simple reason. I think it is not challenger yet. Because the deck has a few problems which are hard to solve, which is if you can remove the bodies on board. So if you don't draw like your exact breakers you need, stuff like the Rudras popping normal summons and those, or like ashing the Mirror Swords, it will always be a strong play against them. And so I think like they miss like a small thing to be able to break the board right now. I think the boards are slightly too strong for it being like a real challenger.
Fair.
The deck. But I can still see good players piloting it, be very strong. And I already saw in chat Dinka Bui being mentioned as one of the Chimera players we saw this season.
True. I mean, he brought it to German Nationals.
Yeah, and probably he will run it back, probably.
He traded with Musketeers for the European Championship. Also having decent success with that deck, of course. But maybe he's coming back for sure. Seems like a fun deck to play, not gonna lie. And I could definitely see him playing it. I don't know whether he's going to be in Lille, but I mean, he has been at every YCS always, so hoping that he's going to be there and lighten us with some new cool deck. Maybe he's going to stick with the Chimera deck as well, though, because he has been playing that a lot. Like, not only for that tournament specifically, but also for other tournaments, like the smaller tournaments, regionals, and so on and so forth. So definitely he's a big advocate of the deck. And I like how our overall analysis, our breakdown is lining up so far. We have one deck in every category so far, unless top meta. So next deck, of course, has to be top meta. Gimmick Puppet, ladies and gentlemen. There's the top meta deck.
One fan favorite deck. Anime deck.
Boom. Everyone up there. sold on it. It's going to win. It's going to win YCS Lille. Everybody knows. No, I'm just joking, of course.
Yeah, put it to maybe next time. We don't need to talk too long about it.
You could still FTK though?
Yeah, you can still FTK, but it is like it's too fragile now because you need like specifically Throne to have a good FTK combo. Yeah. And also like your other 2 or 3 card combos, if they don't have Throne, they are also like very fragile. And the deck now, like I mean, people should always keep in mind that I mean I don't know if it's like still true today, but a long time 1Z Airman was also FTK. But no one did that because you played like 20 bricks for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think Gimmick Puppet is probably the same right now. They're just too weak, too fragile.
I will play Gimmick Puppet over Centurion, though. I'll tell you that.
I mean, do what you think. I mean, maybe next time or next I won't play it also.
Yeah, whatever. Fair enough. But yeah, there's not much we need to mention on top of that. Next up, though, probably the next deck that also is joining the That Grass Looks Greener fan club. Yeah. That's going to be Infernoid. And that already was... Like, that's one of the decks, I think, we can say one of the top 3 decks probably using That Grass Looks Greener, because there is not that many decks that can play it, but that is one of them. And with this deck, though, even though it has like some super cool shenanigans, it's just in general cool to see Infernoid's back, knowing that back in the day it was such a super powerful deck, also it being back in its original form, being a 60-card deck. With this deck, though, I'm asking myself the question, what is like the one thing that makes it super appealing to me to play that deck over other decks? And like I'm lacking an answer to that. I just don't know what like the standout thing for Infernoid is at the moment. And therefore I'm probably just I can't convince myself to put it into any of the high categories, even though in theory it looks like a cool deck, it looks like a really fun deck. I think it can also just do decently well. It has a lot of resources and so on in the graveyard, but man, what are your thoughts? Do you think it's a good deck?
Yeah, so honestly, you already said the right words. You said the deck is very fun and looks cool.
Yeah.
And if you need to classify a deck as very fun and looks cool, it is probably not a top meta deck.
Yeah, you're right.
So the thing that Infernoid has going forward for it. So first of all, you said it's a grass deck. I agree on that. I don't think grass is as crazy as it was back in the day.
Okay.
Why is that? Just for a simple reason that I think the amount of Infernoid cards you play went down significantly.
Oh, okay, yeah. I see.
I mean, you will still play a decent bit, but you just got better ways of like dumping them to the graveyard. With like, I think it's the new fusion monster, the Infernoid Evil.
Yeah.
I don't know how many it dumps, but it dumps quite a bit. And
11 or something, right? Some absurd number.
Yeah, like a crazy number. And I don't know if you even want to play 11 Infernoids, which you cannot do a lot with.
Yeah.
The thing the deck has going forward for it can play like all broken engines right now. It can play the Diabalstar engine to access in Decatron, and it can also play the Fiend cards, like Fiendsmith and the Unchained cards.
Yeah.
Which this deck has going forward for it. The thing I don't like about it is that since we already talked how good the level 1 fusion is, it also looks a bit fragile to me. Like, that's always a problem when they give like old decks good support, which is like revolving around one card. Like the Magic Spectre or Ortros as an example, like the new it's called the Link 2.
Yeah.
So, and I think like the Evil is probably a pretty similar thing. If you dump it with like extra Foolish Burial, yeah, you can just ash it, and your opponent will not get the effect.
True.
And yeah, that's just why I think like the deck is probably still a rogue deck. But it's a pretty high rolly deck, so I can still see people performing with it if they have a good day.
Yeah, kind of similar to plants, to be honest, right?
Yeah,
like kind of high rolly decks. If they just win the die roll every single time, they're going to have a good time. I mean, they realistically only need to win it like 80% of the time. Maybe then also when they go first, dodge the shifter decks, and then they should be fine. Like, speaking about shifter though, that seems like another one of those decks that don't really have a plan under shifter, right? I don't really see anything that they would do when
honestly, I don't know. I just have in mind that like I think some of them like trigger when banished or so, or like do something when banished. So I don't know if that's like like 100% true, but I would generally agree with you.
Yeah, Chat, is there anything, because I don't remember anything being when they are banished.
No, I meant from the new support. I meant.
That's okay.
Also, Void Imagination is a very strong card going second, which shouldn't be forgotten. But I think in Rogue, it has its place in Rogue, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So next up on the list, also regarding older decks that are still having some kind of newfound sparkle and joy in this format. Also partly to that grass looks greener now. We're looking at Lightsworn. And Lightsworn, of course, not only does have that grass looks greener, but also, of course, has additional new support that it got recently. And that support is definitely not bad. I'm just wondering whether it would ever be enough, to be honest, because I know there are some funny, cool, mainly in Master Duel, Tearlaments Lightsworn piles.
Oh, you're talking about the FTK? You're talking about the FTK?
Not necessarily.
FTK. Okay.
Not necessarily, but like, of course, that also kind of probably works. But like in the TCG, I don't even know. And like, this is one of those decks where I can like give you my signature. Yeah, this deck probably can summon like 20 monsters per turn easily. But now the question starts becoming, what are we even going to do with those very, very like monster special summoning reliant decks? But that just in engine, they don't really have any particularly good boss monsters. So like, Appaloosa is gone, so that option is not available anymore. Sure, you can end on IP Masquerena summoning out SP on their turn, but that's like one interruption, and what else are you going to build with all of those monsters? So I don't really know, like those generic combo decks that don't really have a purpose within their own engine. I'm struggling to find ways to really, like, with Yubel, it's also different because they have like all the Fiend cards available to them, and with this, just what is there? What is the ceiling of a Lightsworn deck nowadays? I don't really know.
I can tell you.
Oh, go ahead.
I think the deck like is like played like those Chaos Lightsworn piles.
Okay.
So you're using a lot of Beast Shields and also like cards like Chaos Space, which are very strong.
Oh,
and as well probably some Thunder Dragons. So that you can access the Colossus. And also like Wolf, Phallus, Vice, and Co. They're all level 4s.
Oh, true.
So you have a way of going to Flame Banshee, search Nemesis Flag, search Protoss.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I feel that. I see that.
I think these are the lines you are going for with a Lightsworn deck. Because, like you already said, like the engine itself doesn't give you like really good end board pieces. Yeah. So I think that's pretty tough. Also, one thing I think is we are nowadays talking a lot about decks being very efficient. In like managing their resources, like getting with like few cards into a lot of cards. And I think Lightsworn is a deck that does not have that option. It is not really a deck that is efficient with its cards, so it needs like 3 to 4 cards in its hand to be able to play even. And so the non-engine space is pretty low, and we already talked about non-engine space being so important this format.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I think this is one of the biggest problems with Lightsworn. They need like a bit to start going. And the deck does not have like the Tearlaments engine for us, because the difference is, I mean, we will be talking about the tier later, and there we can also talk about tier Lightsworn, but I'm like specifically talking about like small Tearlaments engines of like only with Sharon's, Purrely Rhinos, and especially Kid Killers.
Yeah.
And we do not have Kid Killers, so we are missing like this mill 8 feel great play, and
sadly we do. I mean, maybe like probably. I mean, when we're including those Bestials and so on, Dispater is probably a no-brainer card that we're going to see in those Lightsworn decks.
Definitely.
At that point, then it's fair to ask though, like, why even play the Lightsworn cards? Because there's probably decks that can just end on those monsters better, and they like got cards alongside that are having more potential. Like, for example, looking at some Runic decks, like White Forest Runic or something like that, they can also technically just make Dispaters if they are playing the Runics and so on. So, playing the Bestials rather. And therefore, I'm not entirely sure whether Lightsworn is really something you want to bring to YCS Lille. I'm sad for all the old school enjoyers, for all the old school fans. It's going to be between Rogue and maybe next time. Where are you leaning?
Yeah, honestly, I'm always quite hard on that, so I would put it into maybe next time, but I would also be fine to put it into a low Rogue.
Let's go.
Give it up to you.
Let's go low Rogue, because I like Minerva.
Okay.
I like Minerva. That's the argument. I like Minerva, therefore low Rogue it will be. Okay, next up on the list, the next
Voiceless Voice.
The next deck that you love with the whole strength of your heart, right?
No, I don't know.
Voiceless Voice.
I don't know
no,
about
wait,
that
it's
one.
Leo. Leo loves Voiceless Voice. I have
Oh,
to,
does he?
for the record, he loves Voiceless
Okay.
Voice. I don't know where that weird obsession with that deck comes from, but he loves it so much. And sorry to disappoint you, Leo. Like with this one, I'm unusually harsh because usually I try to rate it a little higher.
Bro,
But with
I'll interrupt you right
Voiceless,
here. Put it into maybe next time. It is not a rogue deck anymore.
that's
I'm
what I
sorry.
was about to say. That's what I was about to say. Like I just don't think it has any real good potential. The weirdest thing is like I remember I talked about the deck a while ago, and then all the Voiceless Voice enjoyers were speaking up for themselves in the comments and so on, and we're like, hey, you still have so many good things going for you. You have an Omni negate, a spell trap negate, and you have a pop, and then you have a target protection and all that kind of stuff, and yada yada yada.
Yep.
I'm like, bro, have you seen any of the last year's Yu-Gi-Oh? Like, are you aware of how little that is compared to other decks, and also how vulnerable that is to any kind of interaction? Because let's face it, Bestials are insane against Voiceless Voice.
Yeah.
I've seen it way too often that even a single Ash Blossom on Saphira or something stopped the deck completely. So I don't think it's actually even consistent at all. Like it's not super inconsistent, but it's also not the most consistent deck I've ever seen. And therefore,
Yeah.
like, there's just nothing really working out for the deck right now. I mean, maybe at a different format, maybe with some. Wait, can you play Eva? You probably can, right? But does it do anything for you?
It doesn't do a lot for you. I mean, you probably can play it, but it's not good. I'll say one thing. The deck is the deck that got hit the most by Branded Fusion to 1.
Oh yeah, it's true. You could do that as well.
Yeah, because I think Branded Voices had at least the option to have a stronger end field in the end, and now that option is probably gone, which sucks a lot for the deck.
Absolutely.
They might have to play like Melodious Voices or so to like have a bit more power on the end field, but I don't know. I think that's good enough. One thing to mention is as well in the set Crossover Breakers, which will be released in December for us, the set where Raziel Malice and a third archetype is in it.
Good set.
In the OCJ right now, they are like experimenting with the third set of them. I think Rio G they are called now.
Mm-hmm.
And they like revolve around one ritual monster.
Okay.
So the deck has decent synergy with it. I don't know if it's good enough for like December to make Voiceless top meta. I just want to mention it, that the deck actually gets support.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for the people in the YouTube comments, we're not just randomly hating on your favorite deck. Like, we're saying that right now, Voiceless Voice it can't keep up with the decks that we are going to put up there in the top meta category, and therefore it is a maybe next time for us for this particular time. But you're already getting your perspective there from my Centrix, already having some light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe December it is going to be a better time for you, all right? So let's move on to the next deck, and there is going to be the Dinkabui deck, I think you can say, because he probably was one of the three persons playing. I mean, true, one of the many Dinkabui decks, but probably like 3 persons playing this at Euros, and then he was the one person making top cut with it. Then losing first round there, unfortunately, but it is the Musketeer deck. And with the Musketeer deck, immediately, of course, the question becomes, how hard does that deck struggle against with the Lacrima? To 0 adjustion, because it is a fiend deck, like a pure fiend deck, and therefore it was really, really cool that you could just always turn one of your monsters into the entire Fiendsmith engine. But now that your Lacrima that just gave you so many more bodies on the field is just gone, I'm struggling to find this deck very effective.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I was looking a lot into the Musketeer deck. I also have a core laying around on my desk, by the way. But I see one issue with the Lacrima ban now. The Musketeer deck itself was already a deck that like synergizes a lot more with going second than going first.
True.
Because of Magical Musketeer and Max being able to like, depending on the number of your opponents, either spell or traps or monsters, to special summon that many monsters from your deck or search that many Musketeer spell and trap from your deck.
Yes.
And before the Forbidden Limited list, you could have talked about with Lacrima, you have at least the play of Caesar and Unchained cards, which is actually quite decent.
For sure.
But right now, with the banning of Lacrima, I think it became a lot harder to summon the Caesar for you. And without Caesar, you're going first field. It's just too weak. And so for me, it feels like Musketeer now became, again, probably a blind second deck.
Mhm.
And as you already know, going blind second is not always the best thing in Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's true.
Yeah.
But like I wanna go after that point a little more.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same than the Yubel deck though. Isn't it also capable of just through the Unchained cards, through Shavara, and then through Aerial Eater to maybe make up for the miss of Lacrima, still having access to Caesar? I like it's probably still possible to summon the card, right? It's just
I know
a little harder now, right?
I can understand why you think so, but there is, I think, one issue specifically.
Okay.
That now you're often missing a body, if I count correctly, because you need to be able, like with the Engraver 1 card combo, to work a lot in the Musketeer deck.
Fair.
Because you are like with the Engraver, you're often like summoning him of Requiem, probably. And then you're like, if you're playing the 1 card combo, you're like often going into Necroquip, Reborn the Engraver. And then at that point, you're just missing the option to go into like your sequence, summon Lacrima, and summon something back.
Fair.
And I think that's the point where you're missing the second body, because you already reborn the Fiendsmith Engraver. I don't say it's impossible now, but I think like you're losing a lot from that.
That's fair. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So
And also another thing I want to mention is the deck is very dependent on opening Link into Reigns, Go Second specifically.
Oh, that card is crazy. That's
deck. Crazy. But now with only 1 Pot of Prosperity.
Oh yeah.
I think that hit a lot of board breaker heavy decks specifically, because Pot of Prosperity is, in my opinion, a card that especially helps board breaker decks. If I'm playing a deck with like, let's say 20 hand traps, which is actually quite a lot, my Pot of Prosperity is very likely to grab me a hand trap. And grabbing a hand trap of it, Go Second, is pretty bad, honestly.
That's true.
But grabbing like a breaker of your choice going second is very, very strong. And with that card now being less likely in your hand, I think the deck lost a lot of consistency.
So it's probably a rogue deck, huh?
Yeah, I would put it into rogue, and I mean probably a top, at least above Lightsworn.
Yeah, fair. I can see it at the top of rogue.
Yeah.
All right. So then a deck that's
Melodious.
was completely forgotten about. Like nobody was playing Melodious anymore. Like this deck was so cool in national season. Herman Hansen won Swedish nationals with it, for example, and I think it had more decent showings in national season. Then also like the cool combination of Melodious Snake Eyes. I think also almost winning a YCS, and then you also mentioned already Melodious Voiceless Voice. So like Melodious was everywhere. It was the talk of the town. Then Fiendsmith released, and everybody just immediately. It was like you got like from Men in Black those zapping things. Like immediately everyone forgot about the existence of Melodious. It was just gone.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be seen. So is there a reason to believe that it's coming back now?
I mean, honestly, I think Melodious is actually quite a good deck right now.
Okay.
Not the top deck of the format, of course. Probably also not in the top 3 of the decks we are talking about. But I want to talk about why I think Melodious is quite good right now. Because Melodious is the deck that can probably fit the most hand traps now, with Snake Eye probably as a pure deck being gone, or at least hit significantly. And it also plays very well through a lot of hand traps.
Okay.
Because, if you have like Ostinato and that card does not get ashed, you like summon Baka and get like 2 cards into a graveyard, 2 Melodious cards, and can combo off from that. And also if your Baka gets negated, you can like link it off for Gravity Controller and still get the Reborn effect.
True.
So I think that has a deck going forward. Also, it can play probably the best or the most specific hand traps of the format, being like Herald of Orange Light, and also Dominus Purge, theoretically. If you think that card is kind of good, you can play Dominus Purge in that deck, because the light lock does not matter for you. So I believe if you think hand traps are the way to go, I think Melodious is probably a good pick for you.
Yeah, I mean, Joshua Schmidt himself played this at German Nationals, so there must still be something about this deck that is appealing, and maybe this is the deck where you're getting the most profit off of Eva potentially, because Eva together with Herald of Orange Light, that kind of works, or is it just too risky?
I mean, it's fine, but Eva has like one problem here, is that like the Melodious can also Xenolock you quite hard. So dumping it consistently is hard. You don't want to rely on Orange Light sending it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You have one easy way to send it, which is the link to Bloom Harmonist.
True.
Which
yeah,
I think you can experiment a bit with that, but you don't always want to go through Bloom Harmonist. And in that case, like the Eva, if you cannot dump it off your deck, it is probably card you have to draw, which is only good or like only consistently good
light, right?
Going first. If you if you don't have Orange Light, you need to draw it going first. You need to play a green light because you cannot like search to Orange Light with it. You need to search to different.
Oh yeah, true. That as well.
Fairies. And yeah, then you or like you can also like search the Diviner, honestly, which is probably better. But yeah, then you're at a point like if you say like Eva is only consistently good going first and you need to draw it, why is Eva not anti-spell fragrance?
Yeah, true. That's fair. So there was a lot of positive things though for the deck. So is it the deck that we can maneuver out of the rogue category? Do we get it over that, or is it still going to be very top of rogue? What do you think?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think it can be high potential.
Right? Yeah,
it's like borderline between high potential and rogue, and the deck has a few disadvantages. So there's not only positive. Otherwise, we would all play Melodious. The engine itself is not super strong of its ceiling. So you do consistently good stuff, but not like overly crazy stuff, and therefore the deck also becomes very weak to board breakers. So
that's true.
This deck to me is pretty much a meta call. You either say you expect a lot of hand traps, then you think Melodious is good, or you expect a lot of board breakers, then Melodious is not good.
You know what? I'll put it into high potential. Let's see whether it comes true. Let's see whether it comes true for YCS Lille, but I could see a couple of Melodious duelists actually performing well. I remember Herman being a big fan of, like, outside of him winning nationals, of course, with it, he was always like a big fan of this deck. And then, of course, he was also a super big fan of Ritual Beasts, so we will have to see whether it's going to be Ritual Beasts or this for him for this tournament. But he could, of course, be one of the people being up there piloting this deck. Next up on the list, we have a deck that can be either played in its pure form or alongside the Fiendsmith cards, which is the good old Memento deck. And I think it's pretty safe to say, even though it lost some lines with Lacrima and Beatrice and so on, and like the connection is not really, like, it's not really that connected anymore within the two engines, still, I think it's anyways the better version of the deck to just still run the Fiendsmith cards, because it's not like the immediate connection, but I think they're still doing enough for you that you want to include the Fiendsmith cards, to be honest.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to argue on that very much. I mean, Fiendsmith cards are still pretty good, and I just think that with Fiendsmith now not being engine anymore, I think this deck was hit quite significantly.
It was for sure.
Probably the most by the Beatrice hit, even more than Burning Abyss.
Oh no, rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Burning Abyss. No, I honestly, I don't know if you really want to still play the Memento deck now. I think that deck had a pretty big downfall by the last Forbidden Limited list.
I think you're kind of underestimating it. I think the deck is definitely still like pretty decent, to be honest.
I mean, it's still decent, but I'll rate it. I don't know if, for me personally, the deck is even still challenger. That's the problem I have with the deck, because I just feel like if you're relying on your Memento engine, there was a reason people played the Fiendsmith cards, and I think one of those reasons was to get like more one-card combos into it, and I think now you might just lack the critical amount of one-card combos where you need to rely on two-card combos, which are a lot more fragile to hand traps. And you cannot always open Boden Party. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's true. I saw some at some American regionals already, some deck
Mm.
profiles that did run the Fiendsmith cards alongside
Yeah.
the Memento cards still, and they were going for some very, very interesting lines, but also like included a higher Unchained package and so on, where they would be Aerial Eater sending Shavara and then going for some very, very interesting stuff there. And I think there definitely is still potential to be explored with the deck.
Yeah.
I still think the deck is playable, even though it did definitely get a pretty significant hit. Also, of course, Appaloosa was a card that you could summon with the deck, but it was also like, I think now you just play Cranium Burst, to be fair, which is a pseudo Appaloosa just included into the Memento engine. Like, it was arguable whether you would play this card before, but now I think it's just pretty safe to assume that you would run that.
Yeah,
even going second, it's kind of a brick. And I think definitely you were already mentioning the two categories where I would be going back and forth with as well. It would either be high potential or challenger. And I don't really have a clear answer to that either.
I mean, I personally would put it into high potential at the top, just because I think deck now looks for me a lot less appealing than before.
Yeah.
With the deck. I mean, we talked about it probably being a good pick for Worlds or so.
Yeah,
which,
sure.
I mean, I think it wasn't. That's clear to say now. But yeah, I just think the deck lacks a bit of probably power now without Beatrice. But I mean, as you said, it has potential to be explored because like the Xeno locks are not really on the stack. So
yeah, that's true. All right, next up on the list. I don't know. Is Din Kang Pham? Is he going to be in Lille, or is he going to be at some kind of other tournament again?
Well, likely at Lorcana events. He's always
probably, yeah, somewhere out there playing some other card games. But yeah, of course, he was the one playing Purrely the most and having the most success with the deck. So now that he's kind of taking a step back, is there any Purrely duelists out there? Interestingly enough,
there's I think Sebastian Ma, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I mean, we have a YCS in France. He is French. Yeah, he topped Euros with Fiendsmith's Purrely, actually. So, like, I assumed it was Purrely Sprite at first because he was always playing Purrely Sprite. But then I checked the list and I saw, yo, this is Fiendsmith Purrely. And then I realized how crazy of a synergy there is when you just always are discarding Lurry. I think his list just played triple Lurry because you always just discard Lurry with the quick spells, and you always have immediate access to the Fiendsmith engine as well, which is kind of funny. The question, though, you have to ask yourself in that situation, though, in my personal opinion, is this something that is super needed for the deck? Because going first, when you're getting to the Noir, I don't think you should be losing the game anyways. Like, that was like one of the most solid going first plans I've seen in years. Like, this is a good going first deck when you get to set up the Noir. But like, then on top of that, now also summoning a Desiree or something, like, what is that even accomplishing? Is that even needed? And I would arguably say it's not needed really. Of course, going second, it's kind of cool that you're like making more use out of your cards in hand, because usually now the 2 cards you have to invest into a Purrely monster also give you not only the Purrely monster, but also then the Lurry, which is kind of cool. But is it enough to really get it out of the rogue category for me? I don't really think so, to be honest. But what do you think?
No, I agree with what you said. Like, I mean, the Fiendsmith cards have great synergy with Purrely. And I think he also played like the Nimble package still for his sprint place, so he gets more value of it. But as you already see, like Fiendsmith, Purrely, Nimble, sounds like a lot of cards already. And I don't think that can really like fit in more non-engine. Also, still the Purrely is still such a fragile target to negate of Imperm, Veiler or so.
True.
And I mean, the deck just needs a way to consistently get out this field spell. Then we would be talking. But I think now in its current iteration, it is better than before Infinite Forbidden, but it is just not good enough. It does not have enough ceiling. It does not have enough board breaking capabilities. It's like decent at a lot of things, but not really good at one thing specifically.
Yeah, I still think within the rogue category, I want to rank it probably somewhere in the middle, right? Maybe above plants, somewhere like that.
I think it's below plants, honestly.
Even below plants. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I agree. Yeah. It's probably not that great.
And I think the next deck is probably right next to it, honestly.
The Christos Morikis deck, the Rescue Ace deck that miraculously made top 16 at Euros, not even running any of the Fiendsmith cards or anything. I was really surprised. He did not run the Fiendsmith cards. It was completely crazy. It was, I don't know how he did it. He was not running the Fiendsmith cards. He was just playing Kashtira Rescue Ace. It was completely wild. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. Maybe he's going to do it again. I know for a fact that he is going to be a Lille, so maybe he's cooking.
Yeah, but honestly, I think Rescue Ace is just like a rogue deck. Probably the worst fire deck we have right now. So simply to the reason it plays like a lot of bricks, which are not that good. Not going first, never going. I mean, going first are good, but not going second really. Yeah. And all the capabilities of the engine, it is like, it is not good enough to like push through the many good boards people are creating right now.
Yeah, never lucky. Never lucky for the
But
Rescue
they might
deck.
come back one day. Who knows?
Who knows? Next up on the list, we have Ritual Beast. And Ritual Beast not only made finals of Euros, but then also Julio was proving his success at the World Championship by making top 8 there on top of it, still running the same deck. And honestly, I can see that journey continuing. I can see Julio coming back to Lille and having another like really decent run with the deck, because right now, I'm calling it, this is the best shifter deck in the format.
Yeah, I agree. I cannot say anything against that. But one thing I want to say is the deck lost Appaloosa, both the goddess.
True.
Which is a thing people probably underestimate a bit, because the deck still has lines against Nibiru, the Primal Being, but they became a lot less consistent now.
I mean, I will be honest with you. Every time I saw Nibiru against this deck, it just resolved. I never saw someone being able to play around it on feature every single time. Every Ritual Beast player I saw always folded to Nibiru. It was crazy.
No, I mean, there's one thing you need to understand is it wasn't really about the Appaloosa you really summon. It was more about you have the option to summon Appaloosa so that people need to nip early. And there were a lot of lines where like a good Ritual Beast player could like play around it because people felt like, or they had to nip you early because of Appaloosa. I think right now you can wait a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it so many times. Like 8 out of 10 times, honestly, I saw the Ritual Beast player until getting access to Protoss or Colossus, not having any answer to Nibiru up. So like, just wait, honestly, as you're saying, just wait until the very end, and then you're probably going to still be fine with that Nibiru. And that's honestly a major downside of the deck when I'm thinking about one card that like, Nibiru always was good, but like in the recent formats, it was always getting to a point where we were saying, yeah, usually you need another interaction alongside Nibiru for it to be really good. Against Snake Guy, against Yubel, and so on. Usually just one Nibiru wasn't enough. And now against Ritual Beast, it feels like one Nibiru very often just is enough. And therefore, it kind of makes me think that there's no way we can put it all the way up into top meta.
No, I agree with you. But I think it's the Ulti Gaia Paleo, which can actually negate Nibiru. So there are lines. Yeah, so there are lines against Nibiru. That is important to understand, that there are ways to counter Nibiru, because decks like Salamangreat back in the time and Heroes back in the time, they had no way of beating Nibiru. They were passing.
And
Ritual Beast, the deck has some ways to do something. So
not the Heroes 8 on here. Oh no.
Yeah. So that's why Ritual Beast for me is not like Rogue or something.
Yeah, not true. So I even think it's probably even Challenger to me, to be honest. I think it's somewhere along branded up there. And you could even argue with the recent success that the deck had that it probably is above branded even, right? Just with recent success.
Yeah, we can talk about that. I think they're like pretty evenly strong, but they do things very differently. And I think like Ritual Beast probably has the thing that is more appealing to people right now.
Yeah. I mean, it has that easy auto win button, which is never bad to have. Like just having a couple of rounds where you can just lay back and like do it, take it loosely, take it lightly, and not invest too much of your brain power seems pretty promising to me. So next up on the list, we do have the first Runic variant, and that is going to be...
But which one you want to talk about first? I have a stun or a combo, because I would like group them a bit more.
All right, so then let's talk stun first, to be honest. Let's go stun first, and...
I'll give you the stage. The stage is yours.
The stage is mine, all right. So I can already think what you're going to say. I can already anticipate what your opinion is going to be. I can already, for a little bit of a needle, remember what you were playing at German Nationals, my friend. And there it was definitely not going too well with the Runic Stun deck. I think people are actually experiencing with the deck a lot right now. I've seen it quite a bit at regionals and so on, that people are running Runic Stun. Even though, like, I don't think the format right now is really that promising for it. Like, just looking at the decks that are up there, I don't think Runic Stun is one of the decks that I would mainly consider to be good. Especially when the top deck is Yubel. And Varudras is just such a super powerful card against any back row reliant deck. And like, even if you like then manage to get rid of the Varudras, then they're also going to destroy another card. Like, Varudras is just a powerhouse against any kind of back row deck. And therefore, I think like whatever back row deck you're talking about, we're probably going to come back to that later with Labyrinth as well, is not going to be the best choice right now in the format. And therefore, I think it's not maybe next time, but it's just a rogue deck to me right now.
Okay, perfect. I'm very proud.
Let's go.
I cannot disagree. As you said, the deck has decent success. The deck will always have decent success.
Yeah.
I mean, people will always find ways to play stun. Someone will always be able to do that. But as you said, like, breaking boards with this deck right now, pretty much impossible. With Varudras, with Desiree, cards that are so strong against Runic decks. Also, losing 2 skill drains hurts a lot. It was the best floodgate for the deck. There was a reason people played it. And you are now like pretty much gambling with your floodgates. You have cards like Tyrant's Tirade, which are very, very strong and are still super crazy floodgates, but there was a reason people played skill drain over them.
Absolutely, yeah. The skill has been drained for the Runic Stun deck, and therefore we're putting it, I think, above Rescue Ace in the middle of Rogue seems kind of fitting to me.
I mean, if you're stun hard, want to put it there. I mean...
At the end of the day, I'm still a stun player, yeah. Okay, so next we do have combo variants, and I think we will lead up, like, with the, for me at least, considerably weaker deck, and then go to the stronger deck after. So I would personally start with the... Yeah, I would start with the Rose Dragon stuff, and then go for the White Forest stuff after. So, because I haven't really seen too much from the Rose Dragon Runic deck, but you are the one searching out the decks for this, so you apparently have some kind of opinion on the Rose Dragon Runic deck, so go ahead.
Yeah, so I thought we might just like talk about it, because it's like the hot stuff right now. You know, like there's like a regular cycle in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where like every 2 to 3 months a new Runic deck appears, all of a sudden.
True.
That's always the case. Like at one point it was Runic Stun, there was Runic White Forest or so, and then now we're at Runic Rose Dragon, the new hot stuff.
Fair.
But I don't think it is too crazy, honestly. The deck has decent potential. It's looked like it is a lot of fun, honestly. Playing this deck, I think you have crazy fun, especially at locals and regionals. But I think for a major event like a YCS, the deck has some issues. So the thing is, you don't need to always open red rows. Opening Rock Rose is also good, so you don't only have 3 starters, you at least have 6. Garden Rose Maiden is a very, very strong card, especially in Runic decks, because you can simply like discard the Black Garden for Hugin, and then like add it back of Garden Rose Maiden if you have it hard drawn.
For sure, I agree.
And the thing the deck right now does is often it goes for like a double Crystal Wing play, for example. Indeed. Which is a decent board. I think we can agree on that. I think Crystal Wing is a pretty strong card.
Yeah.
But Crystal Wing is not Baron de Fleur. And also 2 Crystal Wings don't like add up to me to 1 Baron de Fleur.
Nope. It really doesn't.
I think that's where the deck folds a bit. I mean, people have the feeling they need to play Bistchills to like grind a bit more with the deck, because in my opinion, the grinding is like very, very much centered around the Runic cards. And Runic without a complementary engine to grind, you will see that folds pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because you just miss like a bit. You miss a bit of power if you're only playing like Runic to deck out and interrupt your opponent, because you need to draw so many Runics after another. And that's why I think the deck is good. I don't know. I mean, we can put it into high potential because it's an unexplored deck.
Yeah.
But to me, it will be a rogue deck. Just because
for me probably as well, but it's good to put it up there just because it hasn't been experienced with that much. Like as a to maybe get a little better of an understanding, I will try to compare the deck to something else Runic related that happened in the past. So how would you say compared to Runic Naturia when that deck was like fully available, let's say YCS Lyon format, no YCS London format back in the day, would you say Runic Naturia was better, or is this stuff now better?
I think they are pretty easy to compare. I think you can compare them pretty good. The only thing is, I think like the Runic Naturia deck had better discards and even a better end field.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, just because of the double Sunflower negate. Where I feel like here, I mean, the Crystal Wings, they are very good. We don't need to talk about that. But if they get removed, there is like little to no chance of recurring then, as far as I know, at least.
Yeah.
And that's why I think there the deck is a lot weaker, and also Crystal Wing is a lot weaker into like breakers and stuff, because it can only negate monster effects.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I think we're being generous with the deck here in high potential, but it's unexplored, so we're always little bit more generous with these decks, as there is still the potential to maybe come up with something we haven't really experienced yet, and therefore maybe someone comes up with a surprise factor for this for YCS Lille, and therefore we're going to group it up there in high potential. Now leading up though, and I think a format is only a good format when there is a Runic deck at least up there in the Challenger category, and I think we are absolutely going to throw Runic White Forest up there into the Challenger category, because that is where it does belong. And I mean, the deck kind of had also a little bit of a hit with Skill Drain going to 1, because it was a deck that could very well work with Skill Drain, because you could just recycle it from the graveyard, which was fantastic, because that's just what the White Forest cards are doing. I still think you do have decent availability to that card, because you're now running cards like Foolish Brilliant Goods or something to like access it through that. So it's still possible. Of course, not as easily as before, but still it is there as a possibility that you have. Also, I think it's just the engines work so well together with Runic.
Yeah.
Like there, I can clearly say this engine is even working better together with Runic cards than the Naturia cards from back in the day. I think this is by far the best Runic deck we have at the moment.
Yeah, the thing I like a lot about this deck is it can like adjust really well, which some decks can't. It can like adjust to everything you believe could happen. So what I mean with that is you can adjust the number of starters you play. I mean, you will always play a free Sylvie, but you can decide if you want to play free LZ, because you think like, okay, I need to like I'm expecting like stuff like Velos or so. Well, I think my Sylvie might not resolve, or I might not get to like my second White Forest card. But you can also play like 2 to 3 Ruchia if you think like, okay, I just want to have like my normal summon where I can like safely get into level 6s.
Totally.
You can also like reset your floodgates, and what I said before, which the Rose Dragon deck has as a problem, they cannot really grind. The White Forest deck can grind perfectly. Because all the White Forest cards in the graveyard can just shuffle back your other White Forest monsters. And in the end, you can always like the White Forest cards, they just recycle themselves each turn so that you can grind with your White Forest Runic deck. And the deck compared to like Bestial Runic decks, like the Rose Dragon deck, is when I said like they play some Bestials. This deck does not, and so it can like profit a lot of evenly matched. A card which compared combined with Runic cards has always been crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a reason why this is the best Runic deck right now. I think it's easily a Challenger deck. I think it's pretty safe to say that this is also going to be a deck we're going to see in the top cut of YCS Lille. It's going to be seen whether it will be capable of making the deep run all the way into maybe the finals or something. But there is the potential for it. I think the main question is going to be, you said that it's very good at adjusting, and the question is going to be how well is this deck going to be able to adjust to Yubel? Because we haven't talked about it yet, but Yubel definitely is the elephant in the room, probably the best deck, the most represented deck, I would even assume. And therefore, that matchup, you need to have a clear plan for that matchup. And I'm excited to see what clear plan there is going to be for the Runic White Forest players. And if they have one, I can see it going all the way for sure.
And it's exactly what you're saying. I think also you put the deck instinctly perfect into the tier list, because I think the deck suffers a bit of Yubel being now the top dog.
Yeah.
Just simply because of the deck has more Omni Negates with the Rudras and Desiree, which if you do not interrupt them, which Runic decks, they often don't play hand traps, so they won't interrupt you likely. It might become a problem of them having like effectively double Omni Negate.
Yeah.
And so I think this deck got a little weaker with Snake Eye probably not being the top dog anymore, but the deck is still pretty strong if they can do this stuff.
Yeah, I do agree. Okay, you are already transitioning quite well there into Snake Eyes, which is the next deck we're talking about.
Yeah.
First of all, the Snake Eye Fiendsmith deck. I think the initial reaction from everyone after the list was, yo, this list did nothing. Then a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days later, after people thinking about it a little more, people realized, okay, this actually did hit the Snake Eye deck kind of well.
Yeah.
I think the hits that we received for it were decent, so that the deck is not able to dominate as much as it was before. Still, though, in the end, I would say, I mean, it's good that it's not dominating anymore. It will still be one of the top meta decks, though, right? I don't think the list and the format just completely... Like, we didn't throw Snake Eye out of the format. It's just still up there. It's a little bit less consistent, which is cool. It lacks some ceiling because of the lack of Appaloosa. It still is going to be a top deck, isn't it?
I mean, honestly now, for me, the Snake Eye hits, they were a roller coaster of emotions. My first feeling was, oh my god, Snake Eye is unhit. We can all like we still play Snake Eye tier 0.
Yep.
My second thought was, oh my god, Snake Eye is unplayable. There's no way you can still play this deck above Rogue. Yep. And now my feeling is, oh my god, Snake Eye is still pretty strong. I mean, not oh my god, but it is still strong.
Yeah, for sure.
I still think the list for the moment achieved very good stuff. I think we all wanted and probably deserved Snake Eye to be unplayable now. But that is not what the list has to do. It does not have to kill a deck always. Mm-hmm. And so I think for the moment, the deck did a pretty good job. First of all, as you already said, without Appaloosa, the board becomes a lot more manageable.
Yeah.
But I think like Silhouette Rabbit can compensate that pretty good. I think that's still strong.
For sure.
The thing, in my opinion, which is much stronger now, is the following. Which is a thing maybe some people are not really aware of because it's a bit more hidden. I think the biggest change now is that the Snake Eye follow-up, in my opinion, has become a lot weaker, simply because of the reason that normally after your turn 1 combo, you often do not have a level 1 fire left in deck. So original Sinful Balls now is not full Snake Eye combo anymore after turn 1 in turn 3. They do have ways of recycling stuff with like Flamberge and Oak. So if they get their Flamberge to resolve, they can still probably do decent combos turn 3. But if you can like interrupt them on that, it's not like before where you have like the guaranteed, oh yeah, I shuffle back OSS, I add Ash, I normal Ash, I summon Popular.
Yeah, that was too easy, that's true. So I think my initial reaction, like, kind of also got me, like, I think it was also a bit of a roller coaster, not as much as for you, but like I pretty much also came back to the same opinion that I also had right after the list, and that opinion for me was, okay, it looks like Snake Eye and Yubel kind of just swapped places, and therefore I think that's kind of what we're in this overview also going to come down to, that Snake Eye still has a top meta deck. It is not the best deck anymore, which is already a good change, as this deck was the best deck for enough time now.
Honestly, I'm not sure if it's top meta for me.
Okay.
Simply for the reason that I don't know if I think the Fire King deck is better. So I mean now transitioning over to the next deck,
No,
I'm
that's
very
fine, yeah.
I'm very indecisive because I feel like one of those decks should be top meta and the other one should be challenger. I'm not 100% certain which belongs where.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't put both into top meta simply
Fair.
for the reason that I think both accomplish different things. Where I feel like if you think your deck needs more ceiling, you pick the Fire King deck. The deck has a lot more ceiling.
True.
And if you still want to do your consistent stuff, probably rely again on engines like Kashtira or on the Fiendsmith stuff more. I think then you play Snake Eye. So in my world, they both cannot be top meta, but I don't know which one is better. So what do you think?
No, I do agree. I thought like my initial thinking was that we put both of them into top meta, but I do agree that I like Fire King more. I think the Fire King Snake Eye variant is offering me more potential, is offering me more ceiling, is offering me more reasons to play it, and therefore I would play it. I wouldn't even rule out playing Fire King Fiendsmith Snake Eye, to be honest. I think that is an option you have also at your disposal, but like the Fire King cards, maybe I'm a bit biased because they have also been running Master Duel now for quite a while, but like they are just very, very, very appealing to run. And therefore I think Fire King Snake Eye would definitely be the deck of the two versions that I would be running as well. And I can be down on having it in top meta and then putting Snake Eye just into Challenger. I think that works with me.
I think it's pretty close between both of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, I just think there has to be one of both which you think is a bit better. And I think therefore, like, they're good. And I also like your reasoning where you say, like, you think you need a deck with more ceiling, which we see Yubel doing, like putting up the ceiling the decks need, and probably Snake Eye needs to adapt on that.
Yeah, for sure. I do agree. All right, then next up on the list, we still have a lot of very powerful decks down there. But first of all, we come to Tearlaments. And you already can realize by how I'm saying that this is not the most powerful deck for the new format. It's pretty, like, in terms of fun, and rate yourself whether fun is a good expression in that context, but it's a super, super fun deck now with that Grass Looks Greener also available to the deck.
Yeah.
It's just a question of whether it can be a top meta deck. It can definitely not be a top meta deck, I'm sorry, but maybe it can be a challenger deck? I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I need to make myself a lot of enemies again. I'm sorry. But that has like become standard in meta analysis that I give some unpopular opinions. Honestly, I think Tear is pretty bad right now.
Boo-centrics in chat.
And that has a simple reason. Like, people really like now with the success of Jesse Cotton on a stack in Master Duel. They really like to compare that. They feel like, oh my god, I got back grass. I can do the same as Jesse.
Yeah.
I just use left arm at grass, mill 20, and I win.
True.
The problem is, I don't think that's correct. Because you're missing an integral part, which I feel like maybe Tearlaments players have forgotten, but there's a card called Tearlaments Kid Colors.
Yeah.
Which is still
not
on the
for
forbidden
TCG
section.
players. Yep.
Yeah, and you do not have that at your disposal. And at that point, it becomes like a gambling game where you need to hit like any name, but not only a name like a Master Duel, you need to hit any name, and you will likely have access to another Aqua. In TCG, if you hit a Rhino Heart and you can summon it, you cannot simply dump a name and go for Kid Colors. You need to dump a name, and what are you infusing into? Are you fusing into like Kaleido Heart? I don't know if that's the best going first play. I think Kid Colors is a lot stronger than something Rhino Heart has.
I would agree.
Yeah,
Arguably true.
That's a problem I see. That's not a problem I see. And if you really want to play King of the Swap and hope you mill that plus a name, I don't know. I mean, Rule Colors is a strong card, and I love that card. But I don't think it's strong enough for end board when we see what Yubel does of one card.
Yeah, I think when you're thinking about 60 card decks, I want to say this is potentially better than Infernoid, but it probably is a rogue deck, right?
Yeah, so what I see for Infernoid is the difference of it having one card combos, like the instant fusion. It has the Dire Belt stuff. It has the Wanteds. And I cannot see Tearlaments having them. And I don't know, even if you're like going for the mills, you need to mill a lot above average, and also the Rainbow Bridge is a lot worse in a TCG since you have 3 Purrely Rhino, and like I already said, you don't have kits, so the Turtoise, the Emerald Turtoise, is not as good in your hand because in Master Duel it's an Aqua for kit colors.
Okay, so we're doing a grouping of 60 card decks here in the rogue category. We're having Infernoid, we're having Tearlaments, and we're having plants right next to each other. Okay, you will 60 card enjoys. You will have to live with that. It's all rogue. Okay, if you want to play a 60 card deck, go ahead and play Branded. But those 3 decks may not be the best choice. I'm sorry. Also, maybe don't play Branded. We already have enough Branded players. Let's be real. Maybe just play Centurion, and then we can all be happy. But all right, next up on the list, a deck that I have also played a little bit recently, and that was mainly before the Forbidden Unlimited list, and of course Tenpai did get hit. Yeah, I did play that, for example, at Gamescom, where I was a master for. God. Yeah, I played that at Master versus at Duel the Master. Yeah, I played that for that. That was pretty fun. I mean, for me at least. I drew Shifter for the first 10 games. That was pretty sick. Like consecutive. I drew it consecutive games. It was absolutely... No, wait. I drew it not in the first game, but then 9 games in a row. But in the first game, my Ritual Beast opponent shifted us anyway. So it wasn't really that big of an issue.
Oh, yeah. I saw you with the gambling shirt on Twitter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, you
exactly.
Gambled.
We gambled and we were doing fine. But yeah, I was having really a high opinion of the deck before the list. For example, I also predicted it to win Euros, as it did then eventually, so I want to take credit for that. But those hits are major. Like, of course, the field spell is an obvious, very, very, very big hit, because now it can be answered quite easily by just going SP, banish it, and then you have no access to it at all anymore. But the other hit that people also realize, but maybe even disregard a little bit, is also Pot of Prosperity. Yeah. The amount of times you needed Pot of Prosperity to resolve to actually have a solid OTK, it was a lot, honestly. When I played the deck, you were relying on Pot of Prosperity very, very regularly. If not for the adding of a card, at least for the Ash Blossom bait. Let me tell you that, because people like ashing Pot of Prosperity, and then you could go Sengen Kaim and you were still good. So having less copies of Pot of Prosperity, I think from the decks we've been talking about so far, this is the deck that got hit by that by far the most. Yeah, and I still think it's a very decent deck. I still think the deck is going to be decently successful, because it's still like, it's not like it cannot do those things anymore. It just has to find different ways of doing things now. Yeah, before I was 100% sold on it being a top meta deck, and now I'm not sure whether it can make the cut for the top meta category or whether it's just a challenger deck at the moment. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you like identified the problems very well. I think the deck for me even is a bottom challenger deck.
Ooh, just really? That's harsh.
Yeah, just because of the simple reason, like, your access to your field spell has been cut off quite significantly. And even though you can still play like the terraforming and also the set rotation, I still think that is not enough, simply because of the hit of Pot of Prosperity, where you were able, like, if you can grab engine or non-engine, if you needed engine, there was quite a high chance you first of all have Pot of Prosperity in your hand, because you have had 3 in your deck. Yeah. And also that your Pot of Prosperity grabs you the field spell, because you had 3 of it as well. Yeah. And I think just now that number decreased significantly. Also, the rising popularity of Yubel also hurts the deck a lot.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah. It's definitely, it always had a tough Yubel matchup. So letting by default Yubel start can certainly not be a good strategy overall. But and I mean, talking about Pot of Prosperity, occasionally you will have to go first with this deck, sometimes by choice, sometimes because your opponent forces you to. And Pot of Prosperity maybe was the most important card for going first purposes, because going first, you would then include a couple of cards from your side deck that just were really, really strong going first, like Rivalry or cards like that. And you were accessing those decently often through Pot of Prosperity, and now that chance, of course, is significantly lowered. I hate to do it, but I think you're right. It probably I want to put it above. I want to put it above Branded, to be honest, in the middle of Challenger. But
I think that's already brave, honestly.
Okay.
But, I mean, the deck is fine, but it just lost so much of its power. Where like Pydra now has like a huge target on his back.
Yeah.
Also, because the deck does not have the ways of like dodging stuff, which is, in my opinion, a problem. We are talking about decks being able to like, I can dodge stuff with like, I mean, I don't know, Shavara or so, or they can like continue playing. And this deck is so reliant on enormous summon. I think honestly, I don't know if you like know about this card, but it is not released on TCG yet. Which is I think it's called Duke of the Mice, the Bakura support card.
Okay.
And that works of course is a super poly target, which you can summon with 2 fiends.
All right.
And you also get like an extra normal summon with it.
Okay, that sounds pretty busted.
Yeah, but it is not available in the TCG.
Yeah.
That's a card the OCG players already have, and that's a problem I see where you cannot access like a card that's super poly, which would fix I think some problems of Tenpai. It's not available for the deck, and so the Yubel matchup stays tough. And also like beating Veru, just beating Desiree. If Desiree negates your feed spell is gone for the turn.
I mean, you just throw Lightning Storm and Raigeki at them, and then you're good.
But they might not care about Lightning Storm because they have the stuff in defense. That's the thing,
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely tough, but I will say for the purpose of it looking like Trident Dragon is blowing flames into the artwork of Branded Fusion here, just for that sole purpose, we need to be it exactly there, okay? We need to have it exactly in the middle of Challenger.
I cannot argue with it. I cannot argue with it.
It looks like Trident Dragon is blowing into the artwork of Branded Fusion, and it looks beautiful just like that.
Probably one important thing, the deck will probably be played a lot because the deck is now very cheap.
Wow, it's ultra cheap. Reprint. It's crazy how cheap this is now. Trident Dragon reprint as well. It's like... It's nothing. This deck is nothing now.
It's like they give it to you with a Happy Meal.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it feels like.
Yeah, you just come to Lille. You basically get a Tenpai deck for free. Just come to Lille, and you will be gifted a Tenpai deck. No, it's not like that, but it definitely is pretty cheap.
I mean, vendors will have the prepared deck as a total. They will just give it to you at the entry. They will say like, give me your mat, I give you a deck.
I mean, that probably works out as a. I mean, Hydra's,
that's how it feels at least. That's
for sure. It does feel like that. So yeah, a Challenger deck. I think maybe just pure power level wise, it might not be up there, but because of the representation of this deck, I think we are going to see this deck succeeding at YCS Lille just because of the pure numbers.
They will be topping. They will be topping, and that's what a Challenger deck has to be. If you think a deck will be topping.
Absolutely. Also, going first, of course, as also Zynex is currently mentioning in chat, Seals into Chimera Dragon is a game plan you can have. Also, I don't know whether they're still doing it, but at yours at least, the Tenpai players were also running Power Filter, which still is decent against Yubel. So going first...
Yeah. But that became a lot weaker with now people not being on Snake Eye all the time. That's the thing.
But isn't it, like, it's still FTK against Yubel, isn't it?
I mean, they have ways to play around it, which is one of them is probably Archon Eccentric, which can be Search of Track.
Okay, yeah. Haven't seen this card in years, bro. but all right.
People played it. Don't do me like that.
Okay, no, fine. I literally haven't seen it being played.
Yeah, it's okay.
In action.
Played it. What do you mean?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Next up on the list, the Yama. One of the most powerful extra deck monsters we have right now in the game.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's mostly being used outside of the deck where it actually belongs to, outside of Unchained itself. Yeah. And Unchained is in a weird spot because you feel like, hey, I can get Unchained but more. Like, there's a reason why this card is being played in so many other decks, because just the ceiling of the other decks is so much higher. So I feel like if you want to play a Fiend deck right now, it's not Unchained.
I mean, I really liked the Nico Schlierkamp deck.
Yeah, I did that too. I did like that as well. But like, is it better than Yubel? No.
Oh, no, definitely not. We're not talking about Yubel levels, but I still think the deck has some potential, just because it can really use quite well the Musketeer cards. Because the deck was always like lacking a good normal summon, and now Calamity is a pretty good normal summon. You can go into max, special L2, and I really feel like you can experiment a lot on Unchained, but not enough to make it a challenger deck. I think it's a decent deck. It always synergized well with board breakers. Now the Musketeer cards synergize even better with board breakers.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's similar to Chimera and meta call. But
I don't know. It's high potential, though. It's high potential, huh?
I'm not sure. It's either high potential or top of rogue to me. I think it's better than Musketeer because the Unchained deck has some stuff going first forward for it.
Yeah,
and this is not really as reliable on like drawing like it's like pretty specific combo lines like link into reigns, and so
let's put it top of rogue. I think that's where it decently belongs. I don't think you can expect too many Unchained tops at YCS Lille, but there might be one or two. Yeah, and I think that's what rogue is probably supposed to be for. Because like I think it's capping at 1 to 2. Like it's not there is a chance, but there is just the uproar of Unchained. For example, like with the high potential decks we have so far, besides the Runic Rose Dragon deck where we're like kind of giving the benefit of the doubt of it not being explored a whole lot, but like the other 3 options there, I think there is a world in which we could see 5 of each of those topping. Like somehow, you know, like there's a chance at least.
Oh, but that's with Unchained, top 64. But I see what
it is for sure. But I think there is a chance, and for Unchained, I don't think there is a world where that would ever happen.
Yeah, I agree. It's also like too easy to say instead of Unchained, you'd rather just play Yubel.
Yeah. All right. So then we're already quite far into this. So let's go ahead and go over the last 2 rather quickly. First of all, I think there also is not too much to talk about it. Once more, we've been really, really pessimistic about Labyrinth the last couple of analyses already. And for me, it's still within that trend. Trap decks are having a hard time into Yubel. And therefore, I think Labyrinth to me, oh gosh.
I mean, we need to talk about one thing. We need to talk about one thing. First of all, the deck has lost 2 skill drain.
Yep.
And I think due to that hit, probably the equation cannon build is not good enough anymore.
Yep.
Just because, I mean, people will say you don't need skill drain in Labyrinth. But I think specifically the equation cannon build really needed it to prevent your opponent from making too much pluses.
I agree, for sure. 100%.
And also, the skill drain was an important part to get like rid of like the Rudra's negates, and so in the Yubel matchup. I think we saw Tritai in the feature match really tearing apart a Yubel player.
Totally, yeah.
So I think the deck was actually better than we thought, but I'll stay with it, like especially the equation cannibal not being good enough. There is a world in which you are like pivoting to the Fiendsmith Labyrinth deck.
Yeah.
Where you are like playing more combo heavy, some hand traps which you think are good, and like also the Unchained stuff, and only like a minimal amount of traps like 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. But I also think then you're playing probably the worst Fiend deck right now. And that's especially where I would put it as well.
Yeah. I always hate that when people try to make decks something that they just aren't. Like, for example, Alta Guys was the same thing where it was where it was a control deck with trap cards, and then all of a sudden, also due to the support it was receiving, it was a combo deck all of a sudden. And I just think that's not the nature of the deck. Labyrinth just is not a combo deck, and I don't think we should try to make it one. I just also don't think it's particularly good. Both versions, either the combo approach or the trap approach right now, are very appealing. And therefore, I hate to break it to you, but I think it's probably behind Unchained even. I would rather play Unchained than this.
Oh, it's definitely behind Unchained. I would put it behind Infernoid or above Infernoid, somewhere there.
Okay, yeah, all right, yeah. Let's put it behind the Musketeers even then. And then, now, waited until the very end to find our crowning champion, the top deck of the format, Yubel Fiendsmith. Anything particular you want to mention regarding that deck?
It's just the deck that has the highest ceiling. It still has the way of accessing its engine with one Fiendsmith Engraver, which gives the deck so much consistency, ways to play through boards. It's the deck with the easiest hand trap negate right now, being Phantom of Yubel. Especially because of the reason it feels like if you're using hand traps into Phantom of Yubel, like you are hand looping yourself, because Phantom of Yubel will simply be summoned at the end of the turn again, because they just shuffle back 2 more Fiends in the graveyard, and then you have the same problem again.
Phantom of Yule is so crazy. Also, what's so crazy about this deck, of course, is it's very good into hand traps, as you were just saying, having an absurd way of handling these. And then additionally to that, it's also absurd into most of the breakers, because it easily can just play around Dark Ruler. It has Omni Negates to play around Evenly Matched and so on. So overall, just very much the best deck right now.
There are just a million ways to play through stuff. The only thing is the deck has a problem against Malchami Purrely.
True.
Which you can play a bit around. It's not like you're like immediately losing, but you need to like, I think Purrely, especially because of Yubel, is one of the best cards probably next format. Pretty much a staple in most decks.
Yeah.
Simply because it gives you a chance, and even though you're not stopping your opponent immediately, the Yubel bot will look less strong because they will likely not want to give you draws for like Shavara and stuff. So
for sure.
Purrely makes the matchup more manageable, but not easily manageable. And that's why the deck is just the best deck, because the amount of like also like the ceiling, the consistency, the ways to play through stuff, Phantom of Yubel being a custom card, it being good to hand drops and breakers, just makes it an overall solid choice.
Great closing words. Very, very solid choice. Everyone, please let us know in the comments if you made it until this point. First of all, let us know that, please, because that has been quite the long episode of a meta-analysis. But also, what do you think? That's only a question from the people making it until here. How many Yubel decks are there going to be in the top cut of YCS Lille? Give me a total number. I'm very curious about it. And I will give you my personal number, first of all. I'm calling 23 Yubel decks in the top cut of YCS Lille. That is a lot. What is your number?
Oh, I would go rebel with like 18 or so. I think it's more than a fourth, but I think like decks like Snake Eye and Co will be able to fight the top spot at least a bit. Also, if we forgot your deck to rank, just put it down in the comments and tell us where it belongs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Next time, make sure to check out this analysis live on Twitch, as we're live on there every single day. Links to all of that are going to be the info box. If you want to check out Icentrix, he's on X. I will link your account down there as well in the info box too. Everyone, have a good day. Thank you, Icentrix, so much for joining, and let's see you guys at YCS Lille. Bye.